Welcome to Dexla, the tool that lets you create complex web apps with your designs and data in 3 steps. Let's get started. Step 1, we will import our UX designs that I have created in Figma and exported earlier. While the designs are importing, we can move to step 2, choosing a data source. This part is the only part that requires technical expertise and can be assigned to a technical person to complete at a later stage. I am able to connect directly to databases such as SQL Server, PostgreSQL, MySQL, and MongoDB. But as I have an API, I can use either Postman or Swagger. I will choose Swagger, then paste the URL, so Dexla can import. The API name, base URI, version, and authentication are picked up. I am using bearer token authentication, so I will need to provide a login endpoint and a refresh token endpoint. Dexla tries to automatically find the correct endpoints, but these can be changed as needed. As they are correct, I can take a preview of the endpoints to make sure all API endpoints have imported before we start building. The Figma designs have now finished importing, but we have a problem. We are currently only seeing test data, so we need to connect the elements to an API endpoint of our choice. I want this table to show transactions, and now I need to select what actions I want this table to have. I am able to search, sort, download a row, export everything, and delete. As these actions have separate API endpoints or query strings, I will need to connect each with its correct endpoint, and if a query string is required, then I need to match the parameter with the name in my API. Once all the actions have been configured, I will need to set up pagination with the relevant API endpoint. The offset and limit parameter should match the property names in my API, so when the user pages, they only get the data they require, keeping performance very high. Selecting what columns I want to show is the last thing I need to do. ID isn't very useful to my customers, so I can go ahead and unselect that and continue. The table is now showing real data which is fetched from my API. I will then need to repeat the process for each web element with the correct API endpoint or data source. Dexla supports responsive web apps out of the box. Let's look at what tablet and mobile looks like. Now let's go ahead and make our app live. Dexla Cloud is available for hosting, providing instant launch time. We also support Docker, which can be deployed in AWS, Azure, and Kubernetes, if hosting internally is preferred. Let's go back and launch with Dexla so we can see the web app in action. The web app has been successfully deployed, and on our premium plan, your customers can install the app in one click on their device, whether that is desktop, iOS, or Android. Thank you for taking the time to watch this demo. Go ahead and get started using Dexla and launch your product fast.